Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Epic Comic Book Wednesday. This is a world's finest collaboration between Michael K Vaughan and myself, where we combine the forces of stately Vaughan Manor and Hyde Cottage to talk about some comic book related item on Wednesdays. And since I horned my way in on this originally, Mike was just doing his thing on his own channel. I said, hey, he gets to pick what we talk about, and it can range the gamut. It started off talking about Marvel's full-color reprint line, the Epic Collection. And we do touch base on Epic Collections from time to time. But we can do all sorts of other things. Other runs, other characters. And Mike is really good at thinking up these subjects. And he came up with a great one for today. I'm sure his video is already up. I haven't had a chance to watch it today. I have a guest, a needy guest. So I haven't had a chance to watch his video. But I'm dying to see it because he came up with a great subject, which is about as meta as it gets. Why? Why superheroes? Why do those of us who love them so much? Why? And that, I think, is a terrific subject. Because it seems, on the surface, a little odd. It got me asking myself these kinds of questions all of last night. Why is this? I mean, on one level, the answers are fairly simple. I mean, superheroes are modern mythology, as they have often been called, as Stan Lee, their greatest impresario, called them. They are modern mythology. They are the modern version of Hercules and Orpheus and Bellerophon and whatnot. They have a massive backstory that allows you to feel invested, and they are pretty naked wish fulfillment. There's no young teenage boy who doesn't want to look like Superman or Batman. There's there used to be no young teenage girl, to the limited extent that girls read comic books or ever did, that didn't want to be, as carefree as Mary Marvel or as noble as Wonder Woman or as powerful as Supergirl. That's fairly obvious, and I think that goes a long way for me. There may have been other motivations involved for me. After all, when I started reading comics, the thing that drew me in was there were three elements that originally drew me in. There was a muscular teenage boy in spandex flying around in the American Midwest. And then, even more important than that, there was his dog. He had a dog, and no matter what anybody tells me, the original version of that dog was clearly a beagle. An albino beagle, but still a beagle. He had a super dog who was just as bulletproof as he was. And then the third element was that boy and his dog had their loneliness alleviated. They had each other, but they also had their loneliness alleviated because the boy was able to go to a group of teenage superheroes, teenagers just like him, that all had amazing superpowers. All of them had powers he didn't have. 1,000 years in the future, he'd get to travel to the future and hang out with a super team. And those elements locked me in. And a lot of the elements involved in why those had such a gravimetric effect on me were personal. I'm willing to admit that. A young teenage boy. I mean, Superboy didn't start off as a teenager. He started off as a boy, as 11 or 12 years old. And not long after that, he had a super dog. That was an easy thing to ground my appreciation in. And then, once that happens, once you have some hook like that, well, then you've got a million stories to read. And the more of them you read, the more invested you feel in trying to figure out a lot of this, much as I hate to say it, comes down to the writers of these comics who came up with one fun adventure after another. Here I'm talking about real superheroes, where it's one fun adventure after another, and nothing at all is any different at the end of any adventure to the beginning of the next one. The next issue of Adventure Comics comes out, you fork over your dime and you read it and enjoy it. And then the issue after that comes out and you read it and enjoy it, and it is not referencing the previous issue at all. So I'm talking about real heroes, real superheroes here. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superboy, Supergirl, Superdog, Hawkman, Green Arrow. Once DC Comics bought Fawcett, they had the rights to Captain Marvel, Mary Marvel, and also Captain Marvel Jr., another muscular teenager in spandex. And endless stories about the greatest supervillains in the world and what wacky thing they're going to come up with next. over and over again. So you have a Justice League adventure. They go to an alien planet. They are turned into giants. They figure out the solution. Everything's going to go back to normal. And then you wait, and the next issue comes out. And there's another adventure. All while the heroes being simple and aspirational. They're never tempted to do anything wrong. They're never tempted to cut corners. There are no moral gray areas in these comics, in the comics that I'm talking about, just as, here I'm about to say something unfashionable, so brace yourself. There are no moral gray areas in these old comic books, just like there are no moral gray areas in life. I know, 21st century. It's only moral gray areas. No, there is no such thing as a moral gray area. But, but there are such things as weak people. And so there was a gaping need for superheroes with feet of clay and permanent reservations at the nearest Freudian therapist. And so these heroes were shoved aside for Marvel superheroes, where a family rockets into space and is transformed against their will, one of them into a monster. Great. Yeah, that's great. Or a prosperous surgeon in New York decides that he wants to take up the mystic arts in order to help his fellow man. Oh, no, he doesn't. He decides he wants to take up the mystic arts because his hands are mangled in a car accident. Lovely. Oh, that's great. Or what about a teenager from the bridge and tunnel crowd, who lives with his aged aunt and gets bitten by a radioactive spider. So he gets spider powers. Yeah, that's aspirational. That's fantastic. And since he lives in Queens, if he wants to fight crime, if someone's tearing up the concrete canyons of New York, what's he got to do? He's got to take the bus. And maybe he uses the bathroom at the back of the bus to awkwardly change into his homemade costume. Yeah, I'm soaring with the eagles already. Yep. He has to take the bus because he can't web sling in Queens. What's he going to web sling on? It's 2-story residential houses? No. He's got to take the bus to where he wants to go. Or what about an industrialist who decides to don a shining suit of superpowered armor in order to fight? Oh, no, wait. No, he doesn't. He doesn't decide that at all. No, he has to wear the breastplate of his armor to keep his heart pumping. Or he dies. You know, that's lovely. That's so heroic. That's right out of a page of Thomas Mallory. Or, then there's my favorite, of course, a nuclear physicist who decides, I will use the newfound power of all sorts of nuclear technology in order to irradiate myself, to give myself superpowers for the benefit of... No. A nuclear scientist, a cowardly nuclear scientist, is accidentally irradiated by a gamma-ray bomb. And what happens? It turns him into a mindless, rampaging monster. But he has his own book. He is a superhero. And they accidentally screw things up, and they knock buildings over, and they disappoint people, and they're not always welcomed by the public, and the newspapers are against them, and they have money problems, and they get divorced, and then remarried, or they have extramarital affairs. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it just lovely? Yeah. That's just lovely. Oh, what about there's the aspirational story of the little boy from Hell's Kitchen who wants to don a costume and use his superior hand-fighting abilities in order to help? No. He has his eyes burned out by radiation, and he decides to fight crime when gangsters beat his father to death. Lovely. Oh, that's just lovely. You could always go that route. Why anyone... I have been known to like a Marvel comic from time to time, but I prefer DC comics, where the heroes are real and where they don't need to make money. They don't have to worry about the mortgage on the Baxter building. They don't have to worry about paying their aunt's medical bills. And where's that money going to come from? I've got hang-ups of my own, man. Do you hear the rap I'm laying down, Daddy-O? Oh, for God's sake. Instead, they do what's right because it's right, and they're really powerful. But anyway, now the answer to Mike's question of why superheroes is that I am totally bought in. Totally. I don't buy monthly comic books anymore because about 10 years ago they were taken over by a group of ideological zealots who were given complete unfettered control by their editors, who should nominally have been in charge of these. You're caretaking these characters. You didn't make them, so you don't get to do whatever you want with them. And that ethos held true for 60 years, 70 years, and then about 10 years ago, the current crop of editors said, no, do whatever you want with them. We don't care. They're a lost leader anyway, so you want to fundamentally change things, go right ahead. You can't touch the live wires. You can't fundamentally change the money makers. So you can't do anything to Spider-Man, and you can't do anything to Batman. Or Superman. But the rest, go to town. And they got feedback from that decision, from that direction, almost immediately. From people writing letters and emails that said eerily similar things. I have been a comic book fan for 40 years, 50 years, and I don't like any of what you're doing. It seems like it is driven by a non-comic book stuff, by Twitter politics. Could you please stop? I'm buying these comics on momentum now, but a habit that can be made can be unmade, even an old one. And the editors and creators of the two major superhero comic book companies got emails and letters like that and were happy. It made them happy. Good. We're alienating our audience. Good. Let's do more of it. And as a result, that audience is 99% gone. And I'm one of that audience. So I haven't been back, haven't looked back to see if I'm missing anything good. And so I don't do it anymore. But there's a healthy reprint culture out there, reprinting the stuff that was made for fans because the fans liked it. And I still do read that a lot. So that allure is not going anywhere. The allure of these great characters is not going anywhere. And occasionally Marvel as well, where a husband and wife who are exposed to cosmic radiation, well, if they have a baby, the baby will probably be a cosmic radiated mutant. And maybe he'll be so out of control with his powers that his father will have to lobotomize him several times. And maybe we'll invite a fan fiction author and artist onto that same book decades later, and he'll decide to kill a baby. I'm sorry, the baby didn't make it. There was a miscarriage. Don't you love your comics? But I can't limit it to Marvel anymore. DC does the same thing now. But once upon a time, when I fell in love with comics, DC didn't do that sort of thing, and I loved it. And that hooked me. So that's why superheroes for me. Because the bursting, endless variety of the color and action of it is just... Once you get hooked on it, you really want to keep going. So, I mean, the two superhero comics have tried their hardest to kill that momentum, and have largely done it. But even so, I go back to the older issues a lot. So that is my answer. Of course, I don't know if Mike asked this question in his own video, but I will, definitely. What's your reason? The two of you who watch these comic book videos. Why? Why superheroes for you? I would love to hear it. If you have an answer to that, I would love to hear it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll be back. Thank you.